Welcome to the video. Today we're going to talk about how I annihilate objections in sales and life. So this is a really important skill set, not only for dealing with other people, but it's also going to help you understand yourself a little bit better. Because when you realize that a lot of reasons we have for not doing things are fake and we don't understand the real reason, you can start to overcome them and understand yourself better. And if you are talking to other people and you feel like you know what's in their best interest and you want to help them see that perspective, this is the skill set to do that. So obviously this goes without saying, this is all about helping other people, right? Maybe you have a product or service that's a great fit for them and you need to help them understand that. Or maybe you want to take your girlfriend out to this specific restaurant, you know she's going to love it, but she just doesn't see it that way. So rather than fighting with her, this is a technique, a system that you can repeatedly use in sales situations, but also in life with your girlfriend, with your boyfriend, whatever. So without further ado, what is an objection? An objection is a perceived reason why someone can't do something, typically buy your product in sales, right? So perceived is the big word here. It may not be real. It can be fake. It can be real. Just give me an example. Like if someone's like, I gotta talk to my wife. A lot of times they're just full of it. They're not certain that they want to buy your product. And so they're just saying that to not hurt your feelings or to get out of the situation. And so in that scenario, you're not in touch with reality, right? So what is the first thing we want to do? Okay, I'm going to teach you how to handle it in a second, but there's only really two types of objections. They come back to two main things. One is certainty. They're uncertain that this is the right fit. They're uncertain that they're going to like it. They're uncertain you're going to solve their problem. And that's why they're not buying. Or logistics, like they're literally getting surgery tomorrow, or like they literally don't have enough money to buy. So there's certainty, and then there's logistics. So they're really the two main objections. Pretty much everything circles back to that, because let's just give you an example, the power of certainty. Let's say I was going to sell you a watch, Patek Philippe, right? One day I want to buy it, like 100K, nice watch. And I was going to sell you, and I was like, dude, it's 5K. If you had any credit card with a 5K limit, you would immediately put it on the card because you could go sell it for $100. You'd be 100% certain that it was a good deal, right? And so if someone's not certain that they want to buy, that's okay, but we need to understand why. And we do that by a couple ways, right? How to destroy these perceived objections, perceived obstacles. Well, we're going to pre-handle them earlier in the call. So when you're on that sales call, the first half is the discovery. It's really like the most important piece. You're going to be asking questions in the right order, the right tonality, helping them understand what their problem is, where they want to go, and helping you understand it too. And we're going to pre-handle it. If someone's like the other day, I had a male prospect. His wife was the breadwinner. And I was like, oh, got it. Okay, so does she need to be here for you to make a decision on something like this? Just instead of waiting until the end for him to be like, oh, my wife makes the money, so I need to go ask her. It's like, just ask him up front. Or if he's like, my wife, and I was like, oh, okay, would she be supportive of you doing something like this? Or I mean, she'd probably be pretty supportive of you. It sounds like you've been thinking about this a long time. She'd probably be pretty supportive of you solving that problem, though. So you can pre-handle this with questions, because you're going to get the same objections over and over again. It's like, wife, certainty, self-doubt. I sell a coaching offer, so we get a lot of self-doubt because it's done with you. They have to play their part. They have to put in work, and it's really challenging. So they're concerned that they can't do it. And, so you could be like, well, do you know how to drive a car? If they're American. If they're like European, I'll be like, do you know how to ride a bike? And then they'll be like, yeah. And then be like, cool. Well, was there ever a time where you didn't know how to ride a bike? Or you didn't know how to drive? Yeah. And what'd you do? You asked someone who knew how to drive. They took you around, right? And at the end, you knew how to drive the car, right? So why should this be any different than that? And then you're sort of like using that consistency of their past experience to help them understand their self-doubt is fake. Okay, now, if we're getting to the point where we actually have to handle, like you've already dropped the price and it's like, whoa, I'm freaking out. Like, I got to think about it. It's like, okay, no worries. First of all, we're going to agree. Totally hear you. No worries. We could definitely reconnect. And you're going to say that you really mean it. You're going to say, no worries. No worries. Totally hear you. Then you're going to clarify. Think about it's a tough one, or let's just say they say, oh, that's a lot of money. I'm like, no worries. Totally hear you. Just so I understand, when you say that's a lot of money, is that like, I don't see the value, or logistically that's an issue for me? right? So we're clarifying, because let's say we think it's logistical and then we're going to offer them a payment plan, but they don't even want to freaking do it. That doesn't make sense, right? So it's like, oh, no worries, totally hear you. Well, just to clarify, do you want to do this, or is this a question of if you want to join the program, or are you just not sure how you can logistically? And then that one you could go with payment plans. But if it's like, totally hear you, it's like, I gotta speak to my wife. Totally hear you. No worries at all. Just out of curiosity, like if your wife says, absolutely no way, you're insane, what are you going to do? Right? And you really ask that question from a place of like feeling out, like, is this person just saying wife as a smokescreen because they're just afraid to tell you to their face they don't like it? Or are they genuinely doing it out of respect? And then be like, okay, totally hear you. Well, let me just, so you probably move forward and you think she's going to support you. No worries at all. And so, I mean, let me ask you this. If she had this problem, she wanted to build her online business and get out of her job, and she found a program that she trusts from people she respected, and she believed it was going to work, and she's committed to putting in the work, what would you tell her to do? Okay. And so with that in mind, is it fair to put the responsibility of your decision on her? Probably not. I'm like, okay, so here's what I could do for you. We could get you enrolled. We could get you started. And if, your wife says you're insane, threatens to kick you out of the house, we'll unenroll you. No worries at all. Is that all right? Does that sound fair to you? And then you get complaints, like, yeah, and be like, are you sure? Right? So that's really the process, all over and over and over again. And see, so that would be a logistical thing. Like, I got to talk to my wife. But certainty, if they're like, I got to talk to my wife, and it's just how I make decisions. No worries. So let me just ask you, now you could clarify this way. That aside, talking to your wife aside, is there anything at all stopping you from being 10 out of 10 on what we talked about today? Anything at all? And they'll be like, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to find the time outside of work. Oh, okay. So now we clarified. Now we actually know. Totally hear you. Are you open to looking at that from a different perspective? And they'll be like, yeah. So this is something I learned from a mentor when I was younger. And what he told me is, Connor, we don't find time, we make it. And so ultimately, I'm sure that at some point, or I can imagine, at some point in the day, you're on your phone, you're doing stuff and using your time however you see fit right now. But if this is a priority for you, you said you really want to make this work and you believe in your ability to do so. Is there any reason at all why you shouldn't be able to make the time for this? And then it'll be like, yeah, I guess you're right. Okay. And so is this a priority for you? Do you want to make the time for it? Yes. With that in mind, would you be totally opposed to moving forward today? And so it sounds, I don't mean to sound cynical with that laugh. It's more just like, you're essentially just coaching people over these limiting beliefs, but you can't coach them on the wrong thing. And so very first, we need to agree and deflect so that we're not fighting someone. We're not saying like, it's like, dude, calm down. It's not that serious. It's okay. Calm down. It's fine. No worries. Totally hear you. Then we're going to clarify, because if we're not talking about the wrong thing, if we're not talking about the same thing, we're not talking about the same thing. You're not on the same page. Now we're going to offer our new perspective, typically either through a question, through a story, through your past experience, through an analogy. And then we're going to get compliance. We're going to say, does that sound fair? Does that make sense? And then they say, yeah. And then you'd be like, are you sure? Like, all right. And then you can go on to the next one if there's another objection. One time I did this for like literally 25 minutes with this kid from New Zealand. If you're watching this, what's up, dude? Like 25 minutes we did this together. And at the end of closing him on a payment plan, he was literally like, thank you. Thank you for helping me overcome all those beliefs. He was thanking me after handling his objections for 25 minutes. And so what you need to get out of your head is closing people is not bad. It's not immoral. Something that I remind myself before I take these calls, because I'm selling a coaching offers. If someone is on the call with you, if they're booked in on your calendar for a sales call, they have some pain. Otherwise, it's impossible that they be on the call. And so if they're on the call and they have pain, it's your job to get that out of them by helping them express it into words, not so you can hold it against them, but so that you can empower them to make the decision to fix that. And then if they're in pain, the best way to get someone to take action on their pain is to get skin in the game. So by actively having them invest in a program to solve their problems, which hopefully you believe in the program as well. And I do believe in the program I'm selling, but more importantly than that, I believe the investment alone is worth it, because you're getting someone to put skin in the game to solving the problem they said they had. So closing someone is not evil. It's helpful. Being able to handle their objections and help them overcome their limiting beliefs, you're doing them a service. You're not selling them, you're serving them. Cheesy, but it's true. And so that's really how to handle objections in sales and life. We talked a lot about sales here. In life, it's the same thing though, right? My friend, I messed this up the other day. We have a free coffee bar here at this apartment complex. And we wanted to go to Starbucks the other day because the coffee was out. And I'm like, bro, let's walk. And he's like, no, we're driving. It's raining. And I didn't do any of these things. I was just like, dude, we're walking. I was like, totally hear you, man. Yeah, I really don't want to get wet. Is the reason you don't want to walk, is it because it's raining or you're feeling lazy? You'd be like, oh, it's raining. You'd be like, totally hear you, man. No worries. I mean, bist du aus Zucker gemacht? Are you made of sugar, as the Germans say? I don't know exactly how I do that, but just in general, when you're disagreeing with people, don't fight, agree, deflect, clarify that you really understand what their true objection is, because sometimes it'll just express itself as emotional resistance, right? They're just panicky. That's why you got to say, okay, lower their emotions, clarify, offer new perspective, get agreements. That's the big idea. Thanks for listening. Happy sales. Bye-bye.